So, Doug, I was looking at your website, the website of Global Chamber, and I saw many sponsors also there, like UPS, and you had arranged my one of my meetings there in their office. It was amazing experience. So, how do these sponsors benefit, and how do they connect?
So they're the sponsors, and most of the people in that sponsor list are typically that second layer, the service providers that want
Okay,
exposure
right.
to the exporters. And so
Okay, I get
whether
it.
it's the logistics and banks and lawyers and places like that. And
Okay,
so what they're looking for is exposure. So, by
right.
hosting a Jagat Shah, what better exposure could they ever
Right.
receive than getting
Okay,
exposure from Jagat Shah and the companies
right.
that you're bringing to the US?
Right.
Also, there's a variety of things that we do. There's a law firm, for instance, in the US based in Detroit, Dickinson Wright. And really, one of their attorneys is by far the most intelligent, the most knowledgeable, the most articulate at USMCA, which is the new NAFTA, between the
Yeah,
agreement,
right.
trade agreement between Canada, US, and Mexico. And so he takes and has taken multiple times a very complicated topic and makes it very clear to our members about what's happening. And now that it's happening July 1st.
Right. Right.
He's holding an event in a couple days that where in fact between now and July 1st, he's talking about that for companies and what they need to do. They actually need to do some things. And so as a visionary sponsor that Dickinson Wright is, we help our members understand that they need to be connected to this, they need to listen, they need to be part of this. And so those are some of the things that we do, whether it's the UPSs or the Dickinson Wrights or Bank of Americas who are there, that whatever they end up doing, if they're doing some projects, another one is another law firm is Squire Patton Boggs that does a lot of work right now with COVID-19 and keeping companies aware of what the opportunities are relative to government programs, things like that. So we're getting the word out about what Squire Patton Boggs is doing, and hence we're giving them some exposure. And ultimately, what happens, of course, is they get more clients themselves.
Okay, that's interesting. So, Doug, I have known your passion and your commitment to Global Chamber, and that itself is your extended family. But I would also like to know about your family, members of your family. What do they do? What type of support you got from them in Global Chamber, particularly in the initial years?
Okay, well, no, I appreciate that. Let's see. I would say maybe just as a general description is that I am the oldest child. So as an oldest child, I tend to be the responsible one, right? The one who does
Right.
looks out or tries to look out for everybody. Also, my mother always called me the smart one. So my brother
Hmm.
was the handsome one. I was the smart one. My younger brother was the handsome one, and then
And the
my
tall
younger
one,
sister. I'm sorry.
also the tall one.
Actually, my brother and I are both tall.
Okay,
In fact,
okay,
he's actually taller than I, so probably
okay,
why he's
okay.
more handsome than me. And then
Right.
my sister was the girl, so we each had our own little
Uh,
classification. So I think being labeled the smart one, set
hmm.
the expectation high. So when I was looking for a college degree, being a chemical engineer is a tough degree, and it was
Yeah.
one of the harder ones. And so that inspired me to kind of get there. I mentioned about my really strong mentor, my grandfather. He passed away within a few weeks of my first international trip. So
Oh,
really, I great that he actually saw that I did my
right,
first trip 33 years ago, and
right.
he passed away 2 weeks later. So I got to at
Oh,
least chat with him about what I had done, but he had already kind of put in me that entrepreneurial spirit. So it took another 30 years almost for me to start Global Chamber, but he was very supportive along the way. And then I would say another key supporter, especially more recently, is my wife, who I've been married to for 38 years.
wow.
She works in the business. She always, and especially in the beginning, wondered how crazy I was to do this thing that she didn't fully understand in the beginning. She at least understands a lot more of it, and at least tolerates my passion for it, and
Right.
is supportive. I'm being somewhat sarcastic. And then finally, my daughter. We have one daughter. She was always told me she'd never liked business, that she thought that was a bad thing. And she ended up becoming a nurse and now a nurse practitioner. So
Oh,
she's a
wow.
healthcare person. She's
Right.
total that kind of a person, but
Right.
she does have one little shred of entrepreneurial element in her. It turns out she married a guy who has 3 startups and he works for Tesla as an executive. So,
Oh,
so she is definitely a caregiver on the healthcare
right.
side, and she's an amazing one. She's on the front lines in California, in the Palo
Yeah.
Alto at Stanford University, and she has this one little thing where Jimmy, her new husband, is very entrepreneurial. So, my wife and my daughter have been very supportive over the years. We've had a great life together, living internationally, and so I would say certainly they continue to be very supportive.
Excellent. Please convey my respects to your wife and my salute to your daughter, because the kind of work healthcare professionals are doing in America is amazing. It is putting themselves in the line of direct line, and amazing. I mean, for centuries, people are going to remember this and be very
Absolutely.
thankful.
I agree. Everywhere
So,
around the
absolutely, yeah, right, right. So Doug, what are your hobbies?
Well, you can kind of tell that, I'm an international business guy. So things that surround international business are typically hobbies. So eating and traveling and cross-cultural activities, arts related to cross-cultural. I've been a golfer over the years. I remember very vividly golfing in some countries around the world and being fairly tall again, and being the foreigner very often amongst many local people. I've always tended to stand out a little bit, and put pressure on my golf game because I'm
Right,
not that great.
right.
But I've always enjoyed it, and I've always enjoyed getting out. And of course, I love the camaraderie of building relationships with people, whether it's our own team, whether it's companies that we're doing business with, and really, I think a key part of my own thinking is I think of them together. I think of our team as our team, but it's hard to differentiate between ourselves and the clients, ourselves and our members. We're all one family, and hence the global tribe. And so those are some of the kind of the perspectives I think that have brought what is the unique global chamber.
Excellent. Thank you, Doug. So Doug, we are coming to the closing comments. But what are the three things you would like to see Global Chamber chapters doing after COVID and all this things settle down and the lockdown and is over and work starts? What would you want them to be doing? Three things.
So, we want to continue the global expansion, and I've been very heartened to hear from places that I hadn't heard from yet around the world, that are people interested to know more about Global Chamber and to start chapters in their local area. Typically, what we look for in a region is a person who has a global mentality, but they're also very well connected. That helps us build the network internationally. So I want to continue to see that, and I'm hoping and expecting I've got another 20 or 25 years of activity with Global Chamber. So I certainly, well before that, want to see in the next 5 to 10 years all 525 chapters fully built out, fully active, with many, many members, hundreds of members with each one. That's really what I'd love to see. And then sometime along that shorter term period, I would love to be able to turn over my CEO role to others and have the management of the team be self-sufficient and continue to move on while I still am allowed to be part of Global Chamber. I mean, I want to be the person that continues to build the chapters and to find people, to support people, to help members, to build connections. One of the things, and I would say the third thing, is the beyond the warm connections, which largely I'd say 80% of the time are people that we know, and we kind of use that in our head. The other 20% are through the system, through artificial intelligence, that we find warm connections. And I see that flipping, so that we've got maybe at some point 80% of the warm introductions we make are actually through the technology, through artificial intelligence that takes what people are looking for, looks through the database, and starts making connections, warm connections that I think artificial intelligence can do. And in fact, we've already started to demonstrate that, where the artificial intelligence that we're using through Gazelle.ai and other techniques that we use are very effective. We still have to filter a little bit, but it's still very beneficial. So those are I would say, the three things. And I really do see that, given the global perspective that we have, that we are uniquely positioned to allow that artificial intelligence to come into the prospecting for our members and make them more successful. And so continued success for our members is always number one in our minds.
Oh, wow. Okay, wonderful. So this is my last question, Doug, that what message would you like to give to global businesses around the world on life after COVID?
So, I think you could make two conclusions from COVID. And I think the wrong conclusion is that we need to shelter down forever and close borders and do less globalization. That's the absolutely wrong conclusion. And in fact, it's exactly why I started Global Chamber. When someone says we need to keep foreigners out of Arizona, that also was the wrong conclusion. We see that, and we'll always have that in every country, by the way, that I've ever been. There's always some fraction of people that are ultra nationalist and want to kind of close the borders, or maybe they're not ultra nationalist. Some of them are just, hey, let's go back to this simple life where we're just kind of you and me on our street. And there's some attraction to that. The sustainability is very important, but ultimately the answer is that we're more connected than ever. And being more connected than ever means there's more opportunities than ever. So whether it's the personal protective equipment that we're seeing float around back and forth across borders, or products or technologies, I think it's going to be primarily technologies that go back and forth that allow us to be more effective, live better lives everywhere in the world. We can't, in any country, invent everything ourselves.
True.
You look at what South Korea has done in terms of some of what they've done and how they've handled COVID-19. They're a model for around the world. Singapore's also done some good things and some bad things as well. So it's really important that we learn from each other, that we work together, and more than ever, I'm committed to and believe that globalization, the way we view it, where businesses are finding opportunities around the world, is expanding and will increase after COVID-19. So number one conclusion is be global. Think about how your products and services will be used going forward, because ultimately, don't let the cross-cultural aspects and maybe the way people look, the way they dress, or the food they eat, or the clothes, or their skin color, or all the superficial things, all of that really is superficial. What's real is we're all the same. Underneath, we all want our children to be better than us. We all want to have a roof over our heads. We all want to leave a mark. We don't want to just go underneath the ground and not have an impact on. We all want to have that impact. We all want to give back to the world. If we're allowed to do that, we'll do it. We want that. It's a human nature. Maslow talked about in his hierarchy. That's a human value. And so I would say COVID, especially like when I see Jagat, your daily messages about the lockdown, you're talking about what's happening to you in India, but those are things that are happening to us in the US and to people in Italy. Those are human values. Those are human emotions. So more than ever, we're connected. And so it took God and his perhaps infinite wisdom to bring yes, a tremendous tragedy on people, but I think whether it's the ozone hole filling in for the world, or fish being seen in the Venice canals, or the air to be cleaned up across most of Asia, or people to recognize that we are humanly connected in a more fundamental way maybe than we could have ever imagined, that sets opportunity for us. And so we at Global Chamber certainly are looking at that as an opportunity for companies to take advantage of the world as their marketplace, to improve the lives of people, and to continue to build now this gift to some extent that we've been given, so that we make the world a better place.
Excellent. Wonderful. Doug, it was amazing speaking to you. I've known you for more than 3 years, but today what I came to know about you is amazing. And I've always believed that the personality of a company or an organization comes from the personality of the promoter or the leader. So, everything what you said is actually, I can see that in Global Chamber. So it is very reflective of, what you do. And again, congratulations and best wishes for Global Chamber to grow all over the world. And my audience, I want to tell you, friends, that you have heard the person, the founder and CEO of Global Chamber, very exhaustive information he has given and background. And I will motivate you to go to the website of Global Chamber and see the activities and join as a member. We business people, we have to take these opportunities which are coming in front of us. We have to act on it. If information comes to us and we don't act, I always tell people that it is almost criminal, because when we are running businesses, we are responsible to so many people who are working with us, their families, their careers. And therefore, every entrepreneur has a common sense. When you look at something, you can make out, yes, this is good for me, this is not good for me. So go into it, check it out. You have heard the founder and his passion, and join as member. It is an amazing networking platform. I have been beneficial, and you have heard from the horse's mouth today. So kindly join up, and Doug will be in touch with you when you join up to all these chapter ambassadors. And all the best to everybody. And thank you, Doug, once again. And do convey my regards to all the Global Tribe members, leaders, and your family. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jagat.
Thank you.